Hello, family. It's Patsy White. I felt moved by the Holy Spirit to start another series that I'll call Testimonies for Pandemic Times. And I just felt like, as much as I like sharing things that I believe are teachable, I wanted to share some personal experiences I've had with God that I use to encourage me when I'm in trouble, when things are looking bleak and hopeless. So, this will be the first of maybe 5 sessions where I share about specific ways that God brought me through hard times, particularly now with the pandemic. Um, Financial reserves, jobs, housing, all sorts of things are drying up. And I know that we have yet to see what impact this is going to have in every area of our lives, besides the fact that we're quarantined. But what is this going to mean long term? So it's times like these that I draw on my experience with God, and what God has brought me through, what I leaned on, what I stood on scripturally, and how I just pressed in and watched God work. So, briefly, I want to talk about financial difficulties, but what I specifically want to talk about is the recovery side. You know that there is going to come a time where things will start returning back to a new normal. And during the time, I went through a period of nearly losing my house twice. I went through a time of unemployment and self-employment. And then I went through a time where I had the fallout. So after I got stable enough to be able to pay my bills, some other things started happening. One is that third party billers who bought the debt of old creditors started contacting me. And so what this means is that somebody bought your old credit card debt, because when I was struggling, I had maxed out my credit cards, because, when you get to the point where, oh, I have $500 worth of credit on this little card here and I have no money for food, well, I'm going to buy it with a credit card because at some point in the future, I'm just believing that God will provide for me. Well, I wasn't able to pay my credit card bills. And so what ended up happening in that time is that third party billers would buy the debt for maybe 5 cents on the dollar and then turn around and collect the full debt. So there were a number of things that happened. One is that I had all these third party billers pursuing me, and it was my desire to be able to pay them off. And so some of them I was able to put on payment plans and pay them off. But, I got to the point where one took me to court. And so I want to say a little bit about that. One is that um, I had I had gotten to the point where I was making sure that I tracked all my money. I was keeping all my expenses. I had an Excel spreadsheet for each month documenting down to the penny everything that I spent and how much I could allocate for paying off debt. And so when I got this court summons, it was actually a pre-trial opportunity to make arrangements. And so I did my numbers and I figured that I could have what I could afford to pay them. And so when I went to the pre-trial, it was like what ended up happening is I knew I had victory. One is that I owed quite a few $1,000s, and I knew what I could afford to pay them based on what my other expenses were. And I just prayed and I asked God for victory for that situation. And when I went to that court date, I was so excited. I mean, who's excited to go to court? Somebody filled with the Spirit. And I was filled with the Spirit. I was so joyous. I got there to court. I had my paperwork. And I also, because I had been in some debt programs, they said, when you make an offer, come with your money. So I sat still and I waited and they called my name and I came to before the judge with the lawyer who representing the specific third party lawyer. And I told them I'm ready to make a payment plan. And the judge was like, oh, well, you guys go step out of the courtroom and make an arrangement. So the attorney told me, that, they needed this money. And I said, well, I am committed to paying this debt off and this is what I can pay. And he got on the phone and he came back and he asked me if I could pay any more. I said, this is what I can pay. So he went back and got on the phone. He came back and said, okay, I wrote out that first check and I handed it to them. and I'm still making that payment. But the key thing that I want to say about this is that God, because of my peace with God and the victory I knew I had, it was like, yeah, these third party billers are coming in and they're making a lot of money on the debt. But I acquired the debt. I was the one who spent the money. So I was so grateful that not only did God give me the revelation that if I just believed that I could pay off that debt, I could. I didn't file bankruptcy. I really felt like I knew that I acquired that debt. And I'm not judging anybody who decides to file bankruptcy. I just knew that I was believing God to be able to pay off everything that I owed. So I went ahead and did that. And as I was doing that, some other things happened in believing God. Another was that I got a letter that a $50,000 debt that I owed was written off, and I was no longer going to be. They weren't going to collect from me. They weren't going. They were. It was forgiven. So I just want to encourage you to just trust God. Do the right thing. And the right thing is what's in your spirit, you know, and just follow through and believe God. No court, no letters, no summons, nothing can put you in fear when you're trusting God. So I appreciate you for listening. I hope this encourages you. And God bless you through this trial. And know that everything has a beginning, a middle, and the end. And that this will end and this will come to pass too. God bless you.